Okay, yes, sir. I'm getting a notification now. And thank you again, Mikaeel.
No, thank
Perfect.
you for having me. Yes.
Boom. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast. This is a part 2 of a very a great interview that we had a few days ago. There were some technical difficulties towards the end, but we want to make sure that people get to hear this amazing history, testimony, information, as well as inspiration from Brother Mikaeel Shabazz. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Alaikum salam.
Yes, sir. This means a lot to myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast that you've come back on. So many people from the YouTube comments and Facebook comments as well were just very, inspired by your story. So we love to get the history. That's what the People's Podcast is all about. Okay, so you were for those who are just watching now, you were in the Marines,
Right.
Conscientious objector.
Right.
Yes, sir. And when you say, I wanted to clear some of the terms for people who may not be familiar with military language.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So the brigs, when you saying you were nervous about them putting you in the brigs, can you explain what that is?
Yes, sir. Brig is a military term for basically a jail. So what you would call a jail in civilian life, it's the brig for the military personnel. The difference being that you don't have the same rights, being in the military as you would on the civilian side. You get arrested, you get locked up, you get on the civilian side, you have a right to an attorney, you have a right, make a phone call, you have a right to, reach out to someone. When you're in the military, you don't get none of that stuff. So when you throw into the brig, you don't get to call your mama. You don't get to notify anybody. There are people in your command who would know your whereabouts, particularly the first sergeant, that rank. The first sergeant usually handles administrative affairs. They're in charge of the personnel. So they're in charge of accountability and, so that you might hear me mention the first sergeant the last when I was talking. Yeah, the first sergeant, he's really over like personnel admin. So there would be a report to him as well as the company gunnery sergeant who would be under the first sergeant. So yeah, they would get notified, but you don't get to make a phone call home to your mom. You don't get your phone call. You don't get the man to see a lawyer. Depending on what the charges are or whatever, you may not even get to see the judge advocate generals or anybody that's on the legal side, just depending, and they can hold you as long as they so choose, So it's not, you don't get 3 square meals a day, get to order pizza, be on your cell phone, all that kind of stuff. So it's another environment, and so yeah, when I was saying I was concerned about, every time I came on the base, I had to be concerned. It wasn't so much fear. I was like mentally prepping myself. Okay, this might be the day I might go to the brig today. And I had so many confrontations. Not because I'm being confrontational, but I am challenging things that are being thrown at me during that period. It doesn't matter what their rank was. See, the thing that helped me, Brother Josh, I was a non-commissioned officer, and I told you that carries a big weight in the military because they're considered the backbone of the Marine Corps. Those are the sergeants and the corporals. Corporals up under sergeants. So I was a corporal, and I had gotten corporal in 2 years. It was pretty fast, and I was on my way to sergeant, but I was actually on my way to transferring, I think I told you, to officer candidate school because I wanted to become an officer, but I wanted to have served on the enlisted side and got my non-commissioned, be an NCO and get that respect, and then go over to the officer side. So I would have a better understanding as I intended to rise through the ranks of the officers, and my career trajectory would probably have taken me somewhere, I would imagine, at least like a lieutenant colonel or colonel, possibly even 1-star general, just depends. I was that much set on the military being my career, so as an NCO, one of the things that helped me was they have what's called the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ. And that's where you have all these different articles. It basically it governs the conducts and ethics of how everybody who is enlisted in the officer are supposed to conduct themselves. So violation of these articles, those are the things you get written up on: unauthorized absence, failure to do this, that, failure to bail off orders, et cetera. I knew that UCMJ backwards and forwards. So anytime they came at me cross or negative, because I knew that UCMJ, I would always challenge them with that. Like, no sergeant, no staff sergeant, no gunner, you can't do that because da-da-da-da. But I knew that protocol. Even still, they could throw that out the window and make up some stuff, which had been done. I had been lied on. I've been, there's all kind of trials that I went through. So yeah, every day was a mental preparation. Like, okay, this might be the day I'm going to the brig, And, you asked about, fear before. And if I pause, it's because I'm really trying to think about how did I handle it. I'm not making up stuff. I'm just really digging deep to pull from my memory those things, because it's hard to convey what I was going through and what the actual atmosphere was during that time. So you got to picture this, but Joshua, this is even before I started the conscientious objector process, because I didn't start filing that until 1992. 1990, I told you, is when I first came in contact with the Muslim Damas in September of 1990. December is when I hear the minister for the first time live. From that point on, December all the way up until March, when I had leave, if we weren't in training, getting ready to go over to, because the Gulf War had started by that time. It started with Desert Shield, then it flipped and turned to Desert Storm. I'm in a fighting unit. I'm in what they call a Victor unit, and that's a unit that deploys over, to response. I'm in a fighting company. My unit was 1st Battalion 9th Marines, also known as the Walking Dead. They go all the way back to Vietnam era, And so I'm in this line company in this Victor unit, and on my time off, I'm shooting up to Long Beach. If I hear Dr. Collard speaking somewhere, And when I'm going to these different events, and you know how fiery Dr. Collard was in the early 90s.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This is when he's on Donahue, and so when brothers would have the tapes and stuff set up at the booth, I would always grab tapes and things for the brothers who wanted to come but couldn't make it. We bring something back, and we would all circulate these audio tapes or videotapes amongst the barracks. So the atmosphere is very, quote unquote, radical, that the young Black men who are in their early 20s, late teens, early 20s are getting exposed to Public Enemy, X-Clan, we all rocking Rakim and Eric B. and, any Poor Righteous Teachers, like the music, it got so bad, brother, they were trying to ban us from playing Public Enemy on the base. I'm an NCO, so I live in the barracks with other, people that are the same rank with me. And every morning, brother, my partner, my roommate had a booming stereo system. He had a very good stereo system. So they have what they call Reveille. Reveille is when you wake up at 0500 in the morning, or 06, they set it. And then you go to child and you go to formation. So Reveille sounds, and everybody got to get out the rack, get up, get ready for your day, get ready to go to formation. And every morning after Reveille, I'm cranking up bass in your face, not an 8-track, giving the good to the wood so the people like, but brother, Public Enemy, I got it blasting. Can't trust it. Fear of a Black Planet, Rebel Without a Pause. I'm blasting this stuff, and we all walk around hardcore quoting these lyrics and things, and Farrakhan's a prophet, and I think you ought to listen to, et cetera, et cetera. So the atmosphere is putting these rednecks on they're being unnerved. And this is prior to us going over to the Gulf War. Then we're having briefings and things because we're all staying abreast of the news, and I hear one of my captains, well, he was my captain, I had a captain as my platoon leader that had just transferred in. I had a Black platoon leader before. They cycled him out. And then I got this cat, his name was Captain Slavic. I'll never forget this dude, because I used to make his life miserable. And he's a captain, I'm just a corporal, but we're in this little briefing, and no, we weren't even a briefing, we were in a room, all of us watching the news, and they were talking about when Saddam Hussein was setting fire to the oil fields, and nobody could understand why is he doing that. Oh, he's a lunatic. He's a lunatic. He's a maniac. He's this, that, the other. And Captain Slavic made the comment about how ignorant these Muslims in the desert are, and why he say that in front of me, and I'm a Muslim. Captain Slavic, that's the most idiotic statement I've ever heard. Excuse me? I said, Captain Slavic, that's the most idiotic statement I've ever heard. When it's incumbent upon a Muslim to study from the cradle to the grave, to seek knowledge, even as far as up to China. And you're going to say that they're ignorant? No, you just don't understand them. I said, but you're not going to stand up. Now, by this time, my platoon sergeant saying, hey, Corporal Shabazz, hey, you can't talk to our captain like that. Well, if he's out of line and he's not speaking ethically and you're going to see him berate, they're calling the Arabs over there sand niggas. Okay, well, you get bold enough to call them sand niggas, what you call us behind our back? So it's that kind of atmosphere. So before I even did the conscious objective, Brother Joshua, I'm listening to that. Matter of fact, the last time I went to Long Beach, Dr. Collar was speaking there, and brothers had crowded the table, so there was only a couple of tapes left, cassette tapes, as I waited in line to get to. One of them, the title was "The White Woman is a bitch." The other one was "The White Man is Still the Devil." I said, "Oh, let me grab that one." I grabbed this cassette tape. It's two cassette tapes. "The White Man is Still the Devil." I played it all the way down back from Long Beach back to the base. I didn't circulate that one. I just let other brothers hear it. When we go on ship, I had Study Guide 18. Study Guide 18 had just come out. And just prior to Study Guide 18, there was a cassette tape the minister did. It was called "The Mind of God." And I think that was from 89, if I'm not mistaken, or it was either 89 or 90 when that came out. But I know the Study Guide 18 was based off of that lecture because the minister went deep into that. So that's one of the lectures of the minister that I'm playing all the time, and I'm really studying. I'm playing several times and getting deep in this thing. But I got the Study Guide 18. Now I got this tape from Dr. Collar, "The White Man is Still the Devil." And I'm playing that tape daily to the point I can say it verbatim. Everything Dr. Collar, from his opening to the closing, I had it down pat memory. When I go on ship, and we're getting ready to deploy over to the Middle East, the so-called Middle East, I'm in that valley of decision, but I'm making it known, I'm Muslim, and I'm not killing any other Muslims. Well, Corporal, how you gonna be in a combat, unit, and we may be facing firefighters? Well, I can tell you who I am gonna kill. I ain't gonna say I'm doing it, but y'all know I'm an expert rifle shooter, and if y'all happen to find a 5.56 millimeter lodged in the back of one of these devils' heads, you know where it came from. And I'm saying little things like this. I'm dropping subtle history. I'm not shooting at the Muslims who you say is an enemy. I know who the enemy is. I'm going to take out my oppressor. And I'm having this kind of dialogue, and it's got them so unnerved, Brother Joshua, that when our unit gets on ship, now my ship that I was on, well, ain't my ship, but the ship I was on was the USS Peleliu. It was named after a Philippine island. It was what they call an LHA class ship, which meant landing helo assault. So it's an amphibious assault ship. It's like a miniature carrier, how you seen those carriers where they launch the planes off of?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
A miniaturized carrier. It holds like 4,000 personnel. 1,500 of those 4,000 are Marines. Now, the Marines are always tasked with the security of the amphibious vessels. So that's the very important role and history of the Marines. They were always the security aboard naval vessels. And when you had parties that went ashore, they were always the security to go make sure everybody didn't get ate by tigers and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the role of the Marines. That's why they got the reputation like they got. So this ship can sink down the back of it, lower itself so that boats can go in and out of it, and helicopters and vertical takeoff aircraft can take off from its deck. So this it's a huge ship. When we get on ship, brother, they're so unnerved. They separated me from my unit. This is before I even filed for conscious objective. They separated from my unit and they assigned me to ship's platoon. Now, ship's platoon, the duties of the NCOs and ship's platoon was to oversee and secure the cargo that's coming aboard the ship down in the halls. So whenever the ship loads down, the boats coming in and out, or the helos come in and helicopters come in and bring, supplies, whatever, we make sure the cargo hold has to be moved around so that we can adjust for, that. So basically, I'm on a supply kind of assignment. I'm not in my unit. They separated me, and so I was to be assigned ship's platoon. It was to keep me in a non-combat status, because the leadership is being unnerved by the way I'm talking, and as a Muslim and I'm telling them I'm not fighting other Muslims. I fight these white boys. I don't give a damn, because they shoot at them, I'm shooting at them, that kind of thing. So they actually banned me from being able to check my weapon out from the armory. And that's a big deal, because a Marine is basic. Every Marine is a basic rifleman. So you got this whole mantra about, this is my rifle. There's nothing like it. So the Marine and his rifle is just, that's like a FOI in his final call. Like, you separating the two is like, well, what you doing? So they banned me from checking out my rifle, not even to clean it. And they are sticklers for cleaning your weapon. They would use that as punishment, to clean that clean way. You spent hours, cleaning that weapon. So I'm banned from that. Then while I'm on ship and I'm eating one meal a day and I'm sleeping like no more than 5 hours per night. And while I'm on ship platoon, there's so many NCOs, they would be like supervisor positions. We got so many NCOs that there's no reason for all of us to be on duty at the same time. So we came and collaborated amongst one another and said, well, hey, let's draw out some shifts. That's why I'm pretty good with scheduling and stuff like that, because I know how it's done. And we had enough NCOs where I would have 1 day on of duty, and that duty would consist of 8 hours. And then I would have 2 days off. 1 day on, 2 days off. So I had a lot of free time. In that free time, we got study groups going. I got study guy 18. I met up with another sailor, a Navy brother, Muslim. He's from Chicago, but he was in Long Beach. He was an engineer. His name is Brother Anthony. Matter of fact, Brother Anthony ended up going back to Chicago and getting registered. And I believe he became Anthony 19X. The brother and I became close on ship. He had study guys 1 through 17. So in our free time, we would get together and we would study. We actually had a study group we formed on the ship, and we would meet in the eating area. It'd be about eight or nine of us, and we got message. Somebody had message to the black man. I think I had Fall of America and Our Savior Has Arrived. So we had study groups, and we're going over the teachings. And that unnerved them even more. Mind you, we on our way to the Persian Gulf, So they tried to break us up, but we basically contested and said, well, y'all got Christian study groups all day long. We Muslims, how you gonna discriminate? So what they ended up doing is they made sure that all the other brothers had different duty assignments that would conflict with one another, so they never had free time together. So that's how they broke that up. But I'm still meeting periodically with my brother because I had so much time off. They don't know when I sleep, because I only slept 4 hours on average per day and night. I'm eating 1 meal a day, and I'm in the gym and I'm working out, and I'm getting busy in the thing. And I'm studying constantly. College tape is in my head. I'm constantly playing that. The Ministers, the Mind of God, there was one other I was playing, constantly, feeding me while I'm on ship en route to the Persian Gulf. So one day, we get to Hong Kong, we get to China. When we got to Hong Kong, and I had those 2 days off. So I got a lot of time on liberty to explore and wander all around. I'm all in China, I'm all in China, in Hong Kong, and I'm taking the train, the subway up under to go to Kowloon, because I remember from the Bruce Lee movies, Bruce Lee would go to Kowloon. So I went over to Kowloon to check Kowloon out. And there was a masjid over there. That was the first time I ever stepped foot in a masjid, and I knew enough about the ablutions and I knew just enough to, I don't look silly while I'm in there, but some of the Muslim brothers in there, the Arab brothers, they were helping me as well. And I only went there twice. I forgot why, but I only went to Kowloon to the masjid twice while I was there, but that was my first experience there. Then when we get to Dubai, we get to United Arab Emirates in Dubai. And they have briefings on the ship before you get to countries. And they basically tell you about the customs and courtesies of the people. And they tell you how they want you to conduct yourself, how you are to dress, you know, those protocols. They lay those things out so that you don't go over there and act a fool and misrepresent the United States, you know. And Marines are known for tearing up stuff. So they drink, get in bar fights, you know, they always looking for somebody to fight, you know. So we get to Dubai, they're not playing that. So they let you know, hey, these are some of the courtesies. You might see two men holding each other's pinky. It does not mean that they're homosexual. They're probably close cousins or related. It's the sign of endearment, da, da, da. You might see them kiss each other on the lips, a little peck on the lips or the cheeks, you know. So they're giving you all these kind of briefings so you don't go in and act, you know, foolish or whatever. And then they told us, and the mosque, the place of worship, you know, we are considered infidels to them. So you are not to go to those places unless you are invited, you know. And then if you are invited, to make sure you tell someone in your command, you know, about that. So as soon as I hit the deck in Dubai, I'm looking for the masjid. It happened to be a prayer group on the base of the Arab Muslims that were military, you know. So I got with them and had prayer with them in my free time. And then I asked them where was the closest masjid, and they pointed out to me. So since prayer was 5 times a day, and we're in a Muslim country, the day that I had duty, the 8-hour shift that I had, I was like, man, these Christians get all this leeway and freeway of what they want to do. Now I'm in a Muslim country. I should be able to go to evening prayer. You know, so I talked to the platoon sergeant and said, hey, can somebody cover me for an hour? I'm gonna go to prayer. That stirred up controversy. I had to go see the lieutenant. Like, what are you doing? What do you mean you're going to prayer? You're not. Didn't you see the briefing? Didn't they tell you you can't? Who invited you? You know, I said, no. That was for y'all. I'm a Muslim. I don't need an invitation to go to God's house in a Muslim country. How that sound? You know, I don't need no invitation. So they said, well, no, we got to get some. I said, well, you know, I knew most everybody I met over there was either named Muhammad or Ahmad. So I told him, Ahmed invited me, you know, just put on paper Ahmed, you know. Ahmed who? Ahmed Muhammad, you know, that's anybody over here. And so I started attending the mosque. I went to the masjid, but the one I went to, the majority of the people there were Pakistani Muslims, you know. So after prayer, some of them started engaging with me, and I didn't speak, you know, fluent their language or anything. I knew I could get a greetings and a few short phrases in Arabic. And so one of the brothers told me, he said, well, you know, you are more than welcome to come back here, but there's an Islamic center in this part of the city where they actually have a library, and there are more English-speaking Muslims there. We're not telling you you're not welcome here, but you just may feel more comfortable because you can communicate. I said, I appreciate it. I found that spot, and yeah, man, I made friends all over there at the Islamic Center. They welcomed me and my brother Anthony like we was long lost cousins. You know, we getting tours around the cities. Dubai don't look like it looked now, but it was still building up. They had huge malls. They had race tracks, camel racing tracks, and motocross tracks, and you know, we all over. I'm seeing stuff that other Marines and sailors don't know nothing about because they ain't get to explore, you know. And after befriending them on the way back, you know, I'm really getting irritated with the way they keep coming at me with all this subtlety stuff. You know, we had what they call Wall Day, and that's whenever the ship crosses the equator, they have this whole hoopla ceremony they do. They call it Wall Day, you know, and they act like they got to pay homage to the great god Neptune, you know, and go through this whole ceremony. You know, for those that have never been across the equator, they call them walls, like a polywog, because short for polywog.
Okay,
like,
okay.
You nothing. You just little tadpole. You ain't even tadpole. You know, whatever that phrase they use. But when you cross the equator, you got to go through the ritual that they have you go through, and you know, swear obeisance to the great god Neptune. Then you become what they call a shellback, you know, which means you've crossed the equator. So when I looked at the history of the ceremony, they basically strip you down, have you go all the way down to the hull of the bottom of the ship. Strip you down, you're down in the bottom of the ship. They save the garbage and trash for like a couple of weeks for this, because it's a lot of trash that gets accumulated with 4,000 men on a ship. But they save it for a week, and then on that day, they throw all the trash and stuff on a trail all the garbage on the trail leading from that bottom deck all the way up to the top deck. And you got to be on your hands and knees crawling through this garbage from the lowest deck all the way up to the top deck. All the while you're doing this ritual, stripped down, crawling through all this muck, the other so-called shellbacks, those experienced, they get to haze you. They taking package of ketchup and smearing it all on you and mustard, and they can't really hurt you or something, but they doing physical abuse and hazing type stuff. When I looked at that, and then when you get to the top, then they hose you down with the hose and spray you down, and then you declare it a shellback. What that sound like to you?
Slavery. Okay.
Thank you. That whole process. So when I saw that, Brother Josh, I was like, I'm not participating in that. Is y'all crazy? I'm not doing it. Now I'm an NCO. I carry a little weight. I got people that I can influence. So when I refused to participate in Walk Day, that became a controversial thing. Corporal, why you? Because I'm not. First off, I'm Muslim. I ain't swearing no allegiance to no goddamn Neptune. It's just a ritual. I'm not playing with y'all stuff, man. Come on now. Don't play with my life like that. And so then they said there was I remember about 20 or 30 of us that said we weren't participating. Because when I said I want to participate, a whole bunch of other brothers, I described just what I described to you, and they started thinking about it like, yeah, that's not even only humiliating, that's degrading and putting us back like we slaves, like y'all are making a mockery of slavery and our sojourn, our people. No, I'm not doing it. So most of the brothers on the ship are saying, hell no, we're not doing it. So then they said, okay, everybody that's not going to participate, you're going to go to the forecastle, which is an area in the front of the ship. I said, okay, now y'all going to try to imprison me again because I refused to do the ritual? Hell no. So I stayed in my rack. The day they started doing this thing and not sort of ready to play that damn game, got into it with my other platoon sergeant and had it out. Whole nother story. But I didn't participate. And guess what? I still got a certificate. They still gave me a certificate as a shell bag. You didn't have to go do that stuff, You find these things out. So on the way back, brother, I was getting so irritated with all the little things that was messing with me. And remember, they wouldn't let me check my rifle out. So they wouldn't let me check my K-bar out, which is like a knife. It's a military tactical knife. They wouldn't let me check my K-bar out. So I'm sitting up one night about 1 o'clock in the morning or so, and I'm sharpening, my knife, my K-bar. And there's another Marine, matter of fact, his name is Lance Corporal Mims. Mims is one of my buddies. He's sitting with me and we talking. And mind you, everything is close quarters on the ship. So in the berthing area, you got like a little small seating area and a TV. But on the other side of these lockers are all the racks, all the beds, all the, where everybody sleeps. And they're stacked 3 and 4 high. And they're in so you got about, probably like 120 men in this confined area, So I told Mims one day, or that particular night, I was just thinking. Don't ask me why I was thinking like this. It's just kind of how my mind was working back then. I was so-called radical, And I knew from the supreme wisdom that we'd be rewarded for bringing in 4 devils, So I told Mims, and I'm playing psychological warfare too, because they trying to do with me. So I'm flipping the thing back on them. And I asked Mims, I said, Mims, how many of these devils do you think I could get in one night before the MPs would catch me? Because if I'm going to go to the brig, I might as well go to the brig, with something under my belt. That's what you mean. Showed him a K-bar, kind of hinted like, he said, man, the first time you get one, they're going to scream like a pig. I said, nah, not if you slip their throat. You can't scream with your throat slit. He said, bro, you crazy. Now I'm doing psychological warfare. And I said, think about it. Everybody is lined up in a rack. You can start from top to bottom systematically. By the time someone at the bottom realizes what's happening, you've already got to them. Nobody can scream. And then you go from the bottom systematically. You think I could get 25 of them? I think I can get at least 25. Hell, the way the birds are, I think I can get 50. Bro, you crazy. I said, if you challenge me, I could probably get 100 before the MPs would be alerted and come take me away. We laughing and joking about it. Mind you, I'm doing psychological warfare. So 2 days later, and this is a small area, so I know they're overhearing what I'm saying. I know everybody ain't sleeping. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. 2 days later, a brother named Corporal Duncan comes to me. Mind you, I'm separated from my unit. Duncan says, hey, Corporal, why weren't you at the meeting? I said, what meeting you talking about? He said, exactly. I said, exactly what? He said, you weren't at the meeting. You don't know nothing about it because you weren't invited. What meeting was I supposed to be invited? He said, you ain't asking the right question. You supposed to ask, why weren't you invited? Okay, Corporal Duncan, why wasn't I invited? Because the meeting was about you. So they had a meeting about me, a company meeting with all the 3 platoons, 4 platoons, everybody in the meeting. What was the topic? Well, he said, well, they didn't mention your name, but the company gunny said, we got this particular Marine that's going around trying to spread the ideas of their religion. And, basically arguing about Black and white issues and racism, and talking Malcolm X type talk. The company gunny said, we're going to be heading back soon, and I'm going to retire, and I'm going to get off in Hawaii, and then I'm done my service in the Corps. I want to make it to Hawaii. I don't want to wake up with my throat slit. So I need you all to leave that particular Marine alone. So they said that in the meeting, brother? He said, yeah. I said, wow. And in my mind, I was like, okay, see, when you ask me about that fear thing, yeah, they got fear too, brother. I know their fear is more deep rooted than the fear they try to impose on us. And once you come into the knowledge of self, you become fearless. You have less fear because you know who God is and you know who the devil is. So I put that thing on them bad psychological warfare. That's before I even did the conscience objective. This is in the middle of a war, brother. And I'm not the only, and mind you, I told you those other 2 brothers they were telling us had tried to commit a mutiny on the ship. So there's a lot of upheaval going on and they're trying to deal with this thing. So man, we had them shook up, brother. We had a hell of a battle inside. So I'm saying all that to say, and I'm conveying that to those that's listening and even those officials, because I want y'all to understand, for the brothers who came out of the military, in particular during those late 80s, early 90s, and sacrificed and gave up our military careers, some had did their time. Others, I wasn't the only conscious objector. I'm just one of the few who actually has conscientious objector status on my DD-14, on my DD-214, which is this is how we got discharged, my discharge orders. I got conscious objector status. That means if another war come up, don't call me. I'm not fighting for y'all. And I wanted that status. So for those of us who went through those trials and then joined the ranks of the Nation of Islam, and there are leaders and officials and people in position who are downing us for our service, downing us for our sacrifice. Most of us don't mention our military. There's a brother in Atlanta. Y'all got a brother in Atlanta. I ain't gonna say it now, I don't put him on the spot because I haven't talked to him. But when I met him and he told me he was from the military and I asked him what branch, and when he told me what his MOS was, he didn't think I knew what it was. And I said, damn, you special forces. He said, brother, how you know that? Brother, I do my studies now. I wasn't in your branch, sir, but I do my studies. And he and I got to talking about his experience. This brother done jumped out, got helicopter assault, training up on him. He got all kind of training. And I'm looking at those that are in leadership saying, why are y'all not picking this brother's brains? Why are y'all not utilizing? This brother got some skill. And you won't know anything about it because he ain't gonna tell you about it. It just so happened, I'm a veteran, we talk, so I'm saying all that to say, when we are getting downed and put down and prefixing things with the devil's military, again, like I said before, military is military, just like martial arts is martial arts. And then now we're in a condition in a state where we don't have one military mosque, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan stated back in like 2006, and we're being socially engineered away from even thinking about fighting, even using that language. If you and I had a conversation, it's like, wow, we're being curtailed and socially engineered to not even use that language. And it started, brother, from my observation around the Million Man March. Right around the Million Man March, they on edge because they don't know if anybody's coming, but they kind of assume, but they don't know. And then we show up and it's nearly 2 million on the mall there. And at that particular time, brother, they didn't have 2 million personnel between all 4 branches of their armed forces. They had just slightly less. And those are just the ones that showed up. Can you imagine, brother? When were you born, brother?
I don't discuss my age. I'm an actor, brother. Okay.
Yes, do you remember the Million Man March?
I was very young, but yes, sir, I remember the Million
Man March. Yes, okay, so imagine, brother, 2 million men at the nation's capital, and those are just the ones who showed up. That is not a representation of all those who wanted to come, but for whatever reason couldn't come. That might double and triple the numbers. What you think that the opposition to truth, freedom, justice, and equality is thinking when they see that? So they went to work. And then I started noticing in the meetings, the language started changing. All of a sudden, everything is spiritual. We got to be more spiritual. Your lectures got to be more spiritual. Lieutenant, you're talking to the men, but you got to be more spiritual. And that language, just that, I'm like, what are they talking about? Do they understand that you can't fight without spirit? Ask Mike Tyson. If you get in that ring and you ain't got the right spirit, are you going to be victorious that night? Or are you going to kiss the canvas? You know, if you ain't got the right spirit, you can't fight without spirit. So why are we being steered in that language and a kinder, gentler nation, so to speak? You know, we're being socially engineered. So we put down the veterans of the armed forces, those that have combat experience, those who have all kind of knowledge about the operations of the white man that makes them successful. We quiet that down, but that ain't what the messenger did. The messenger took men like that, made them captains, put them over the men, trained them. That's military training.
Yes, sir. Okay, Brother Mikaeel. Okay, first of all, I just want to let you know you're getting a lot of love in the comments. Thank you, everybody. Like, share, subscribe. Both my sisters, Miriam Amos in the greetings. Brother Kelvin said he loved the lecture of Mind of God. Brother Daniel L.E. Muhammad. A lot of people were saying, Brother Robin, people were rejecting the fact that you had to do the crawling situation. Brother Daniel says he bears witness to the fear. And Brother Zaquan Akbar says, please give the greetings to you and the viewers as well. Thank you, Brother Zaquan Akbar. Okay, yes, sir. But I was going to ask you, do you believe that there is a need for people who have the knowledge of self, or conscious, woke, whatever the term is, to be in the military?
That's a good question. As far as, you mean like right now, should someone go into the military?
No, sir, not going into them. I'm saying like those people who were able to help you in the military, like if somebody's like a general or something, should they I want to make sure I word it right. Like, who's going to help the people who are going into the military if there's nobody there who has the public enemy tapes or the minister's lectures and stuff like that? Is that important to have somebody on the military side to disseminate information, if that makes sense?
It's very important. It's very important, because had I not had contact with the individuals that I had contact with, you know, and then I mentioned my godfather, who was a retired master security sergeant. I mentioned that he was a Shriner. I don't know if I covered it when we were talking before, but those that don't know, the Shriners are obligated to help Muslims.
Absolutely.
So everybody didn't know that. I knew that because I had conversations with my godfather, but the Shriners are obligated to help us. And then you have many that are under the Masonic order who are under the Shriners, and they are obligated to help us.
Yes, sir.
But
yes, sir.
If you don't, you know, if you don't identify that you recognize them as Muslim sons, you know, but once you identify them, then yeah, they are obligated to help you, you know, so they are there. And there are many who have that consciousness that aren't followers of the minister or the messenger per se, but they do have a consciousness and they do look out for others. I asked my godfather, because he told me he was a 3-tour Vietnam veteran, and he knew of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad during his time. And he had gone to the temples. He told me he'd gone to the temples, and you know, they mixed it up with the brothers. They were all tight-knit back in that particular time, because they all recognized we in the same game, you know. And I asked him, well, why did you choose to stay in the military versus not go on and become a Muslim, join the ranks. You went the Shriner route. And I ain't gonna imitate him, but I hear his voice in my head, it kind of comes out. But he said basically after he had done his first tour in Nam, and he came back here, he felt so bad for the new recruits or the new brothers who were going over there that were green, that he knew wasn't gonna be, he questioned who was gonna be over there to help them get through this mess and navigate it. So he went back, he voluntarily went back 2 more times. So he could be that person there to help guide them on how you survive this jungle environment and this racist climate and stuff, So there are people who are like that to date, in the military. They just don't get celebrated because we're too busy calling it devil's military and putting it down and not acknowledging and recognizing that consciousness. So it's very important, brother.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. And I want to make sure I thank you again on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast for your sacrifice and the sacrifices of your family, Brother Mikaeel Shabazz.
Thank you, brother, for having me on here. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. My next question is, knowing the trajectory that you were on in the military, smart, plus you can handle weapons, plus can fight, understood military science, and then you sacrificed that. If you could do it again, would you do it again?
Knowing what I know now, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And seeing the things that I've seen and the disappointments, probably not. If it was one of those things where I could know what I know now, back at that particular time, nope. Wouldn't do it, because it would be, if I had retired from the Marine Corps and made it the career that I intended to make it, and I wasn't no slouch, brother. I wasn't no regular Joe type dude. I was gung-ho about that thing. Not about the red, white, and blue stuff, but about military training. I've been that way since a youth. I told my father and grandfather and uncles, they were all military. I would have retired in 2008, 20 years. I could have did 20 years. God willing, if something hadn't happened to me between one of them tours,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Off or anything like that. But I would have had a check. I would have had benefits and a check sent to my house on the 1st and the 15th until the day I stopped breathing. And my family would have benefits of free education and going to college. My wife would have benefits should I lose my life. I don't have any of those things. I asked a brother one day, and this is no slight, and I hope that those listening are really hearing my spirit and I'm coming from the heart. I asked a brother one day, he's a veteran as well, Muslim brother. I said, brother, the supreme wisdom, problem number 13, it talks about after learning Islam is mathematics, Islam yes, true, can be proven in no limit of time. And it says, you must learn to use mathematical language to secure some benefit for yourself while you live. That is luxury, money, good home, friendship, and all walks of life.
Yes, sir.
Right? I asked the brother, I said, brother, what benefits have you received since you became a member of the Nation of Islam? And brother rattled down he said, oh, brother, this done help me become a better man. All these esoterical and, intangible, not invaluable, but intangible things, that brother Bill characters. And I said, praise be to Allah. Because I asked a number of brothers, I don't ask everybody, but just these particular brothers I talked to. And I said, okay, brother, all of that sounds beautiful. All of that is beautiful. And what part of that is luxury, money, and good homes? Because those are just fundamentals of what physical things we should have that are manifest, that show some sign of benefit. And you could have got some of those things you named from self-help books to build your character, not down in your experience. I said, okay, good answers to those questions, brothers. Now let me ask you this other question. What benefits did you receive when you were in the United States Marine Corps? He said, oh, I had free dental, I had free medical, housing, I had a uniform, I had money set aside for clothing, I had a clothing allowance, I had the education I put $1 away and then the GI Bill, and then if I did time, I could have my student. So he named all it. Then he started. He said, "Oh, brother, I see what you're asking. I see it now." I said, "Okay, now go look up the word benefit, and then we'll talk tomorrow. Okay, we done with that." And we had a discussion the next day. And I said, but think about it. It didn't say that the officials or the laborers of the Nation of Islam are supposed to give you luxury money, good home. It said after you learn Islam is mathematics, then you must learn to secure some benefit for yourself while you live. Have you been learning that? Have you been really applying the teachings to that? Or have you been focused on these other things and misdirected to other things that occupied your time and your mind? Where's the manifestation? And so by challenging him on that, I said, brother, now you can see what my frustration is, because I haven't had any benefits. All I've gotten is hardship. The little meetings I've had and being with Michael Jackson or getting the opportunity to talk to ministers, man, those things, I cherish that. But those are probably the only highlights of my entire 30 years. Everything else has been me, and I'm not the only one, but everything else has been me trying to lend my time and my talent to contribute to the organization that I sacrificed my career for to help make it better. And what did I receive in return? I've been talked negative about. I've been lied on. I've been told that I wrote a letter to the Office of Supreme Captain that I did not write, saying that I don't like the Supreme. And that stuff has been circulated amongst the regional captains. I found that out from a regional. I ain't gonna blow the brother up, but I found that out from low. I'm like, wow, you mean all this stuff is being said about me? And I get to certain cities and the minister, I get blocked on stuff, and I'm wondering why they treat me like I'm Raymond Reddington from the blacklist, So all I've gotten is continued hardship. But the thing is, Brother Joshua, they don't, these brothers in these positions don't seem to understand my background. I challenge the United States Marine Corps. I challenge people who actually have power to physically cause me harm or take my life or take my pay or take my rank and my livelihood, put me in a hole somewhere where nobody would ever find. If I challenge the devil to his face, what these Negroes think I think about them and what they say. And that's why it's funny to me when brothers carry on social media with me and some of them break down. I say, hey, just give me a call, man. I don't go back and forth with people, in that manner. I might be witty, I like to have fun. I like challenge. I'm logical, But as far as I'm not gonna put my brother down on social media. We're not doing that. Give brother, let's clear this up. And I've had brothers talk crazy as hell to me on social media and on the phone. And then I can't tell you, Josh, how many Saviors Day I'd have been at where the brothers see me in real life, and I'm not that little guy that they pictured in their mind. And then they might have heard, they might have mentioned my name, start talking crazy. Somebody else say, hey, not that one, brother. Don't do that. Brother show up at your door. Don't go that direction with that brother. And then brother come to me, brother, I have to apologize. I don't even know, what do you mean, brother? Brother, we had an argument on social media, and I just want to apologize. Brother, pray, I don't even forget all that. Brother, pray, I accept your apology. Let's move on. Let's not even dwell on that. Yes, sir.
Okay, yes, sir. Great. And you get a lot of love in the comments, people saying that's the good homes and valuable, good teaching, brother. Praise be to Allah. Mrs. Miriam says she appreciates your honesty. So many people in the comments, thank you all very much. But okay, here's my question. So I always ask everybody, each guest, what's their greatest trial, how they overcome it. How have you kept your love and your spirit for the Most High Mr. Louis Farrakhan and the believers when you've been through such trials?
That was because you got to understand, brother. I told you when we talked at the beginning of the interview, I was looking for God ever since I was a child. When my mother started taking me to church and that concept was introduced to me, and I'm reading the Bible, I'm looking for the physical. I don't want to read about something about happening in Egypt 4,000 years. I'm looking for the physical manifestation of that today. I want to see the scriptures today. So ever since I was like 5 or 6 that I can remember, I've been looking for God. I found it when I came to the teachings. I told you, I read the back of that final call. And I read what the Muslims want and what the Muslims believe. And it got down to that point number 12. And I understood that point number 12 when it said Allah came in the person of. And I heard Dr. Khalid say, Allah came in the person of you. And Allah came in the person of you. And he carried on and carried on. And I understood that. So I found that. And when I listened to the minister, I studied the history of Malcolm. I studied what was going on at the time, even with Khalid, you know, and I just kind of saw it from the perspective of this is what happens. Oh, and I give you this part too, to go into a little deeper about that question. That's a very good question. I had been studying the counterintelligence program of the FBI. And when I say studying, I'm talking about going page for page for them 2,000, 3,000, man, like getting into that, but also the history of its inception and then what is discovered, right?
Yes, sir.
And here's the thing that, I always pose this to brothers and sisters to think about. 1972, and I think it was a March of 1972, right? There was a particular organization, this radical, so-called radical organization in the US, they had raided and field office, FBI field office in Pennsylvania. You can go look this up. I'm counting this. And they raided this field office, and that's how they discovered the COINTEL program.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It was about 3,000 pages or more so, and they stole or they confiscated those
yes,
pages.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They copies of them, and they circulated around different organizations, magazines, periodicals, etc. This is 1972, right? Think about what's happening in the Nation of Islam at that 1972.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It didn't become public knowledge until 1973 that there's this counterintelligence program, right? 1975, the message departs. 1976, there's a congressional hearing about the counterintelligence program. 1976, there's a congressional hearing, and they're basically questioning the director of the FBI, like, hey, did you all do these things, you know, to surreptitiously, you know, undermine Black organizations and target organizations? Did you do all these types? And they was like, yeah, but basically we don't do that no more, and we've done away with the COINTEL program. It is no more. So they had this congressional meeting in 1976, right? 1979, there's a brother, you can see that on YouTube. I forgot the brother's name. Somebody might remember who he is, but there's a brother who's in an interview on a Black program that aired in 1979. He's basically saying, yeah, I was one of the agents.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've seen it. Yes, sir.
Okay. And he says they don't call it COINTELPRO no more. They call it the Black Desk. Well, at least that's what it's known as during my time. And he basically exposes some things, right? Think about this, Brother Josh. We didn't come into the knowledge of COINTELPRO until 1972, 1973. So that means everything that happened up to that point, we're not knowing about them purposely trying to pit the messenger against Malcolm and Malcolm against messenger and those who are, you know, inclined to either one and causing that division and doing the old, you know, divide and conquer. We're not conquering that thing. Here's the kicker. We never developed a counterintelligence program of our own. So I'm being mindful of these type of things as I'm coming into the ranks, and I'm being sorely disappointed because I thought everybody was trained like C.J. Steve Muhammad, because he was one of the brothers who used to come down with Dr. Khalid when I was in San Diego. Dr. Khalid would come down to San Diego speaking. I would always see C.J. He was Captain Steve at that time. I would always see Brother Captain Steve, and one day I and Hanshi Tyrone were talking, and brother was sharing with a little more of his military background and things like that. So I was assuming everybody was trained like him, but that wasn't the case. And I always heard the Pride of 75 brothers and all the training, and I'm just not seeing it. You know, and every time we start training, for some reason, we get derailed and we get off into spiritual spooky land, you know, which is crazy to me. You know, so between time, I'm steady studying. And I'm continuously reading the Quran. I got the study guides, and I'm getting deep into the mind of the minister and where the minister is coming from with this thing. So I knew it was never about any individual, and I studied the history of military science of other nations and how they came into being, guerrilla warfare and, counterinsurgency and things like that. So I'm always mindful of those things. And I would get frustrated, brother. Captain Salim saved a lot of lives.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Protected a lot of people that don't even know they were being protected because they had done things, and he was, and I'll share this about Brother Captain. One day, he and I were sitting together in the car. Something had happened. I won't say what had happened, but it was a violation. It was a gross violation. And I was going to handle it. And some folks was going to come up missing. And Brother Captain Salim, knowing my mind and knowing how I operated, he sat and talked to me. And he said, brother, I know what you are thinking. He said, I'm not telling you not to do it because you're justified. He said, but all I will share with you is from my experience that if you intend to move on that, if Allah blocks you, he said, you may try again. He said, because I know you, because you like me. You may try again. He said, but if Allah blocks you the second time, he said, brother, then don't do it. Because that's Allah telling you. He said, he not with you. If you go ahead and violate that and continue on, then you're going to get what you're going to get and know that Allah is not with you. And just the fact that he shared that with me, I said, wow, okay, I'm going to think about this thing. I didn't do what I intended to do, but so brother saved a lot of lives just with that wisdom. So I've gotten to this point. Then I just got to the point where I just say, you know what, it's not working. And one incident where I thought to do something, because I was wronged gravely. A brother had stolen from me, had lied on me, had stolen from me. I said, if he lied on me and steal from me, he ain't gonna do nothing next but try to kill me. Let me get him before he get me. And I meditated on this thing, how I was gonna carry it out. And brother, the third day of that meditation, as I'm sitting on the beach, Mission Beach in San Diego, it came to me, don't touch him, he's already dead. I said, that got to be the God talking. I remember Brother Captain Salim said, and I'll be damned, brother, 9 months later, that brother's wife passed away. And after that brother's wife passed away, I went to brother, apologetic, because I felt bad for the way I even felt to, even though brother had wronged me. And I said, brother, whatever you need for your family, your children, I'm here for you. Hold on 1 second, brother.
Yes, sir. Okay. Okay, and thank everybody who continues to like, share, subscribe to the People's Podcast and who are watching while Brother Mikaeel's on mute. I'm going to do a quick 60-second commercial break for all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast, and we're going to come right back with his story. But while he's on mute, we'll just do a quick sponsorship. Thank everybody who's watching. Can't wait to put this on YouTube. And if you all have any guests or guest suggestions, please let us know and DM me and we'll make it happen. If you'd like to be a sponsor of the People's Podcast, please cash out the People's Podcast. Also, my brother Rashad, Street Premier Media Production. He has a 4K camera and a drone. He does television and film editing. Please reach out to him if you need anything. My sister Miriam, ABC I Love Me children's book and coloring book, both of which are available on Amazon. Please go get those. My sister Naima, Stay on Point Dance Academy, LLC. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country and right here in the studio in Atlanta, Georgia. We love our tiny dancers. Also, Sister Rashida Rafat, Rod Communications. She's doing a special 5-year promotion. If you're working on a book and you need copy, editing, content development, or media relations, please reach out to Sister Rashida Rafat, Rod Communications. Also, Brother Student Minister Robert L. Muhammad, Conflict Mediation, Squashing the Beef in the Southwest region. Thank you very much for making our communities to help to make our communities a safe and decent place to live. Sister Fudia Muhammad, Children of the Most High. Please get this book, Giving Birth to a God and the Science of Child Rearing. Also, Brother Kenneth, bow tie maker extraordinaire. He'll ship bow ties to you anywhere in the country. Thank you very much, Brother Kenneth. Sister Sherry Muhammad, Asiatic Minds. She teaches school virtually, the young kings and queens. She teaches STEM, asiaticminds.com. Please sign up if you want your children to go to school virtually. Dr. Henry M. Carter, King Henry Turkey Legs, right here in Atlanta, Georgia, for the Rashad Muhammad of Chicago COVID-19 disinfecting cleaning services. My father's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, AbdulSharif.com, and Down is Not Out. And last but not least, my 2 books, Cleopatra and No Father, No Excuse. Thank you all very much. And we're right back to our brother Mikaeel Shabazz. Boom.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. So yeah, that brother's that brother's wife had passed, and I went to brother feeling bad about what I had in my heart at that time for brother. Even though I was angry, and brother had took some money from me on top of that, and I was struggling, and he knew my struggle. So it was all these things. But I went to the brother and I apologized. He didn't know I was apologizing for, but brother had children and I got children. I said, brother, whatever you need for your children, brother, I'm here for you. You call on me, I will answer. Brother, 10 years later, almost to the date of his wife passing, their oldest child had passed in their sleep. And I got news of it. And I said, wow, something. This ain't nothing to play with. So you ask, what makes me like stick around, man, because Allah keeps showing me different things before they happen to let me know the reality of Allah's behind us. Allah's in this thing. I'll give you one more. I told you about the phone call that I got from Minister Farrakhan.
Yes, sir.
That was January 28th, 2011. January 29th of 2006, I believe it was, 5 years or 4 years earlier, I had woke up and had a vision that the minister called me. Mm. And in the vision, I saw Amul's Farrakhan, and I said, I got to get this. I picked the phone up. And when I answered the call, he said, brother, do you know who this is? I said, yes, sir, brother minister. Same as it happened in reality. It's happening prior to. He said, brother, I have an assignment for you. I said, yes, sir, brother minister. And I'm looking around my house because I always used to write notes and stuff. So I got a notepad, but I got a pen and it won't write. And I'm scratching the paper, tearing the paper up, trying to make this pen right so I could take notes from what the minister is telling me. And I'm scared. I don't want to be rude and say, excuse me, brother minister, let me go find a pen. So as he's talking to me in this vision, in this dream-like vision, he says, I have an assignment for you. He said, do you know a brother that they refer to as the gunny? I said, oh, yes, sir, brother minister. That's my martial arts instructor. That's my brother, Tyrone Sharif. He said, yes. He said, brother, I want you to continue to encourage your brother. He said, because what he has in his mind, we as a nation need. I said, yes, sir, brother minister. He said, and then I want you to go into the surah, into the Holy Quran, and I want you to look up surah such and such. In particular, I want you to pay attention to the 3 footnotes of that surah and that ayah, and I want you to study that. I said, yes, sir, but I'm trying to write. What is that? I can't get my pen to write. So I'm thinking, okay, I got to remember it. I got to remember. You're going to remember it. You're going to remember this surah and these ayah, and don't forget the 3 footnotes, And so the minister asked in the vision, will you be attending Savior's Day? And I said, oh, no, brother minister, I'm going through a situation right now, divorce, and I just don't have the financial means. He said, oh, brother, don't you worry about that. You have your assignment. I said, yes, sir, brother minister. He said, do you have any questions for me, brother? I said, yes, sir. And I asked a question about a situation I was dealing with at that time in Las Vegas, a personal issue. And he said, oh, brother, I can't answer that. Only Allah can answer that. And you meditate and stay steadfast in prayer, Allah will show you. I said, yes, sir, brother minister. And I said, well, mister, I love you, brother. He said, I love you too. And got on the phone. And I woke up about maybe 30, 40 minutes later. I can't remember the Quran verse. I can't remember none of that stuff, right? But I'm like, wow, that was pretty vivid. It wasn't like just a dream. It was like, I could really hear the minister talking. Like my phone, I'm checking my phone to make sure his number ain't in my phone. I get to it's on a Sunday morning. I get to the mosque, I stand post. Brother Minister Duke Muhammad there in Las Vegas. Shout out to Brother Minister Duke. He's teaching. We weren't in our building that time. They were doing remediation on the mosque at that time. We were meeting at a community center, and brother spoke his lecture. And after he got done with the lecture, he had a holdover meeting. And in the holdover meeting for the believers, he was talking about some business. Then he said, I forgot. I can't believe that I forgot that part. It was most important to what I wanted to convey. He said, I'm going to share with you all anyway. He said, I can't believe I forgot because guests had left the mosque and he wanted them take that. He said, oh, but for you all, he said, I want you all to go to Surah such and such. And in particular, I want you to pay attention to the 3 footnotes. And my ears perked up. I said, whoa, I got my pad out, my pen and wrote it down. I said, that's the same one the minister said in my dream, you know. And after I got off the phone, I told brother, I said, brother, after writing down and brother got off the post, I said, brother, Mr. Duke, can I talk with you a minute? And I'm sharing with him about that vision dream that I had. And I said, the minister said to me, he said, no, brother, I don't want to hear that, brother. He said, that ain't for me. He said, that's for whoever the minister told you to direct that to, brother. He said, you had a vision, brother. I said, you saw? He said, brother, I said, I just want to share with you the part that the minister, he said, brother, I don't. I said, brother, Mr. Duke, all I'm saying is, you said from the Rosh in the same Quran and the 3 particular footnotes the minister said in it. And I just wanted to thank you for remembering that, because had you not remember that, I couldn't remember. He said, brother, you need to call that. But I went outside, I called Brother Tyrone immediately. Called him immediately. I said, Brother Tyrone, before you say anything, I need you to listen. And I ran that whole thing down about how the vision and how I got to the mosque, and Minister Duke reminded me this and that. I said, so brother, I had to tell you that because I want you to know how real this is, what I'm about to share with you. I said, in the vision, the minister told me to continue to encourage my brother. He said, because what you have in your mind, we as a nation need. Brother Tyrone got silent for a minute. I said, brother, you there, brother? He said, brother Mikaeel, I'm here. He said, brother, I just got to let you know. He said, I'm sitting here with tears in my eyes. He said, because I've had the flu for the past 48 hours. I've been in the bed, you know, with a high fever. He said, but while I was sick, I'm still trying to write this material. And he's in Chicago at that time. He said, I'm still trying to write this material, trying to give to the leadership here. And he said, then I had to stop myself as I'm anguishing and pain and not feeling well, trying to figure, why am I writing all this stuff, even to the detriment of my own health? Because they're not going to do nothing with it but put it in a desk and let it collect dust some damn where. He says, I threw the daggone paper and the pen down and shoved that stuff, and I laid down to sleep. And I can't sleep. And then you call and you tell me this and share this from the minister. And I'm here in Chicago with the minister. He said, brother, I thank Allah for you, brother, and what Allah's put on your heart. That you all were in Las Vegas. But a vision and dream comes to you, encourage, said, brother, I'm going to listen to that and I'm going to continue. They never accepted what brother gave, but I will note that the sister captain had overheard brother sharing the information and material. And she pulled him aside and questioned him more and had him clarify things that brother had written up, because brother wrote stuff on a captain's training academy, a lieutenant's training academy, certain protocols of, you know, how to deal with different situations. He wrote manuals because that's what he did in the Marine Corps. And this brother was the drill instructor over drill instructors at drill instructor school. He was the trainer of the trainers of the men that make Marines. That ain't the only thing he did, but that's just one of the levels of prestige that brother had risen to, and his proficiency in military science. So brother knows this stuff. And the sister captain there in Chicago, I forgot which one of the sister name, I see her face, but I can't think of the name offhand, had drilled brother on that material. And next thing I know, brother, a couple of years later, all of a sudden, the MGT are organized. Man, they got all this new information and they got all these modules and such. And the FY looking like, well, how come they got that and we ain't got that? You know, and when I heard the stuff the MGT were talking in the way it was outlined and laid, I said, that's Gunny right there. That's Gunny's material. I ain't saying it to everybody, but I'm like, I know brother's material. That's brother, because I got copies of it on my computer because we went over it to make sure the language was right. He was bouncing it off of me to see if it sounded good and would be appropriate, you know. And I'm knowing so all of a sudden they got organized. And then they started passing us leaps and bounds with their organization. But they used brother's material. Why didn't we? So when brother came into conflict and heavy trials on brother, you know, I just reminded brother, you know, hey, the books say the big fields are waiting wide awake man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mosque, you know, and brother went out there to Indiana, Gary, Indiana, teaching in the high schools and man, having a profound impact on the young men for the past 8 or 9 years that I know of in that area and teaching martial arts and teaching military science, you know. So what kept me, brother, is just Allah kept showing me different little things, hints and signs that even if I got discouraged and I was ready to say, the hell with them Negroes, you know, doing nothing, I ain't giving up my time and my talent, nothing.
Yes, sir.
You know,
yes, sir.
Shoot. Allah be like, hey, you know, he tug on you, say, hey, here go a little one right here. Here go a sister right here. Here go a brother right here. Or a brother would call me, you know, a brother captain from a particular city, or a brother, somebody would call me and man, y'all get me talking about military science and martial arts. You know, shoot, it was all day conversation. That thing boosts me up, you know. And so it's believers like that make me know, like, okay, you're relevant and you need it. And it doesn't matter if the officials or anybody else blocks you, or, you know, people malign you or talk ill about you or whatever. The truth gonna come out in the end. Allah bring always to the light what people hiding in the darkness. They plan and Allah plans. And Allah is the best of planners. Just like when the minister gave me that phone call and I had written that thesis, you know, and certain people said it, they lost sleep over it. They didn't rub them the right way, or they had a certain feeling about it, but that wasn't the minister's take on it, and I didn't care, you know. And then when they looked up, I was in Chicago sitting in the VIP section. Everybody looking, how the hell did he get in here? How did he get here? And it was a mystery all of a sudden, you know. But it's things like that kept me inspired and want to continue. And Brother Captain Salim encouraged me, said, brother, don't throw the books away. And yeah, brother, teach military science. They're going to reject it, but do what you do. Allah going to, and as Salim used to always say, brother, you do in the name of Allah, Allah bless you. Yes, sir, Brother Captain. And I've been blessed.
Praise be to Allah.
Family, I've been blessed to run my own business. You know, I've been blessed to help many people out in different arenas and areas and stuff. You know, and if I got it, I give it. You know, I'm not a selfish person. You know, my wife has been supportive, so I've been blessed all around. So that's what keeps me going, Brother Josh.
Excellent. Praise be to Allah. And you get so many comments, Brother Daniel, Brother Zakwan Akbar. So many people are just showing you so much love. Brother Alichi Taylor. So many people are showing you love, and I can't wait to put this on YouTube. Thank you very much. Okay, yes, sir. My next question is, how did you apply military science and things that you maybe have learned from the military and in the FOI training when you were with Michael Jackson? Because some people want to keep texting me about Michael Jackson stories. Everybody kept texting me about Michael Jackson stories. They're like, yo, you gotta ask about Michael Jackson. Wait, Josh. See, now I'm gonna put my Duran hat on. Like, was everybody texting you, or you just want to talk about it because you're the biggest fan? Because we could have talked offline about Michael Jackson. We didn't have to have a podcast to be here Michael Jackson stories. I do enjoy them, though. I do enjoy them.
Yes, no, I'm teasing with you, brother.
Yes, sir.
How did I apply it? You know, the organization part, you know, that was a big part of it, because as I was organizing or helping to organize with the team at the house and I ended up doing the schedules, you know, and then one of the brothers that was assigned to do the payroll, he kept messing it up. It just, you know, Brother Steve Muhammad out in LA is a very meticulous brother. You know, not Steve, but there's another Steve that worked with Captain Leem out there. He's a very meticulous brother.
Yes, sir.
Got to be a certain way, you know, and he had a system down, and brother couldn't get the system quite, and it kept glitching. And I was one day following with him and said, oh, no, you do it this way. And he said, well, brother, here, you take it. So I ended up doing the scheduling. Then I ended up doing the payroll. And I just had a lot of responsibilities and hats that I was wearing, you know, that I used the skills that I had from the military of how to organize. I used to be a communications instructor at communication school right before the Gulf War had started.
Yes, sir.
I graduated 2 classes. So being trained as an instructor, being trained how to develop curriculum and how to organize from the military, that helped me in the nation, you know. But Captain Salim helped me to understand how to put it in the proper language, you know, that it motivates in the way. And I can motivate you, you know, but then you might understand what I'm talking about. You still be motivated, but it's better if I speak your language, you know, and can relay it to something you can identify with. So that was what I started working on. And I remember the Honorable Muhammad told us that we always get to the root of a thing. So that's how I studied going back into the military science from that perspective of what the messenger told us, get into the root of that, and it uncovers more as I keep learning and applying it. So on the detail, yeah, I'm doing the organization, I'm doing payroll, I'm doing all these things. And then just from my combat training and my desert warfare training and, you know, combat driving and night driving. This is a lot of stuff I took from that. And Brother Duran could tell you, I had never trained with Brother Duran prior to us being on that detail. But everything Brother directed us to do, I catch on wife. And when we were moving in the motorcade, nobody taught me how to move in the motorcade. I knew how to move in motorcade from my military training. I could match him. And you never know, we never trained together. That's just how smooth. And he's not, there's been another place I've been because that training has applied. Again, military is military. So when Brother Duran had his training, we just got on page to speak the same language, because he and I butted heads a couple of times in a good way, trying to understand one another. And he and I had a heart to heart. And when I explained to him, and then he explained to me, and we found that median is like, okay, both, man, brother, shoot, you better not say nothing wrong about Brother Duran around me. I tell you right now, liable to get slapped in conscience. That's my brother. We became tight.
Yes, sir.
And we moved that way. So the study guides. Remember, I was studying that thing every day on shit under duress and stress. So that's in me, it's ingrained in me. And those things are what the minister was imposing on us or trying to get us to accept from the study guides, those lessons of character building. That's what I'm applying on the detail as well. It got to the point, brother, and I'll share it. Brothers might get mad, but as we're on the compound, as Captain Salim would say, brother, the devil trained you all in the military to have an eye for detail. This is how they trained you. So there will be certain things to me that look out of order, and I will point them out. Brother, why is this, pallet leaned up against this back wall? Did you put it there? No. Did someone else put it? Somebody could use that to leap over it. It's an 8-foot wall. Did somebody plant? It'd be little things like that. And I'm going around, and I know the other brothers that came from LA, they were young at that time. They were in their early 20s. I was in my late 30s at the time. And I probably got on their damn nerves with nitpicking, And then the brothers from Las Vegas, I really got on their nerves, because it was just like, but Mikaeel think he'll know it all. And he keep trying to correct me on this, that, the other, blah, 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 blah. No. I remember what the Captain Halim told us and what the criteria was, and I wanted to surpass that criteria because I knew this is very important. And this is someone the minister calls his friend. Mm-hmm. This is the biggest entertainment icon in the world. And we got to show like this is important. And we have an opportunity to represent as FOI. So now I'm not going to be slouched on this thing. And it got to the point, brother, they started talking, not everyone, but some of the brothers in Vegas was talking crazy behind my back and calling Brother Captain Halim out in LA and complaining to the point where Captain Halim called me and said, brother, I'm getting a lot of phone calls on you. I don't know what he's talking about, Brother Captain. He said, brother, I'm going to be there. We'll deal when we get there. When we got there, when he came back to Vegas to deal with this situation, he called me and said, brother, you don't need to be at the meeting. He said, because the brothers, the things that they're complaining about, he said, he said, brother, I like your work ethic. That's what Captain Halim told me. He said, but I like your work ethic. And I've never soldiered with you. I know who you are. I know you, San Diego. He said, but I've never sold you, so I don't know you like that. But I'll judge a man for his works, and I like your work ethic. So I'm gonna deal with it, I'm gonna handle it. So they had the meeting in it was almost like a so-called bitch session, And I guess my name and Brother Mikaeel is the basically, I guess they wanted me gone, And at the end of Brother Captain Halim let them all say what they wanted to say from what he told me later. And at the end of that, he said, brothers, he said, I'm hearing what y'all are saying, and I think it's a shame that you all know this brother better than I do. You all soldiered with him here. And have you all took these complaints to him? Well, no, brother, no. He said, that's a shame. Y'all supposed to be a brother. He's supposed to be tight. He said, but here's the other thing. Do you all know that if it wasn't for that brother, none of you all would be here? He said, that brother fought for 3 days so that you all would have a job. He kept sending me schedules, trying to schedule you all in rotations to show that it could work to have you all on board. Because initially it was just supposed to be him, Brother Kim, and Brother John. He said, y'all really need to be thanking that brother. And it came back. I said, Brother Captain Halim, I thank you for just standing up for me, and saying what you said, And then brothers came to me and said, brother, they would come with humility. But I didn't know that you had wrote us on the schedule. Yes, sir. And I ain't the kind, I'm not braggadocio. I'm not going to kick you when you die. Oh, yes, sir, brother. Okay. I go on to the next day. I said, no, but I didn't realize that. Oh, yes, sir. Brother, I apologize. No, all praise due to Allah. That's my spirit. Let's do the work. Let's keep on. I'm not going to take it personal. So the minister teachers, Closing the Gap came out at that time. I'm studying all the things. I'm using that to apply to try to help establish that brotherhood that Brother Captain Salim showed me. And when my brother pinky toe hurt, my pinky toe supposed to hurt. I knew some of them brothers was hurting for money. Some of them had jobs already. They didn't need the gig. It was just a little extra for them, But I knew a few of them brothers, they was dependent on that thing at that particular time. So what I look like, I'm eating, and I got a bowl of bean soup, and I ain't giving my brother half. What I look like. So yeah, I fought for them. Even though they talk negative about my back, I'm still gonna be a brother. And that's the aim and the goal of counterinsurgency, of guerrilla warfare, of propaganda, of asymmetric warfare. They all mean the same thing. The ultimate aim and purpose of them all is to win the hearts and the minds of the people. Isn't that the messenger's mission? To win the hearts and the minds. Remember the message say, as long as I have the hearts of the people, I'll never have to worry about writing a check.
That's right. That's right.
Come up insufficient funds, non-sufficient funds.
That's right.
But the only way you win the hearts and the minds of the people, and this is where a lot of the leadership and they obstinate views of things lose sight of. The way you win the hearts and the minds of people is not repeating the words of the minister. You have to provide a service to the people. That's it. You got to meet a need. If you not meet, the General Colin Powell passed recently, and there was one quote of his that I admired about his leadership. And he basically said, I got to quote somewhere, but in a nutshell, he was basically saying, when the people stop bringing their problems to you, it's because they don't trust you. And if they don't trust you, trust is the foundation of effective leadership. So you don't have to worry about are they there with you or the Lord. Just if they stop bringing their problems to you, they stop asking your input on things, they don't trust you. So we got to be mindful of those type of things. I'm trying to win the hearts and the minds of people. And I got to say, I'm either going to touch minds or hearts, I'm going to touch nerves, but either way, you're getting touched. One way or another, I might get on your nerves. But ask in the end, is it the right thing? You're going to come to see, oh, damn, brother was right. Oh, brother, oh, okay, okay, I see what he's talking about. It is going to be beneficial. Otherwise, I wouldn't say it or do it.
Praise be to Allah. Excellent. So many, Brother Kelvin Muhammad saying powerful. Brother Daniel E. Muhammad saying teach, brother, on the hearts and the minds of the people and teach on the bean soup fruit. So many people just showing you love. I can't wait to put this on YouTube as well. Sir. Yes, sir. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about your books. Where can we get your books? How can we get the books on military science?
Oh, yes, sir. And I just got these revamped, so they're no longer in the 8x11 size, they're in the 6x9. There's 5 books total. There's three volumes of On Military Science, a guide to understanding the meaning of FOI. This is number 2. There's 3. I don't have number 1. I think I gave the ones I had to somebody else. But this is number 2 and 3. Number 1 is a green cover. So there's 3 volumes of that, and not all 3 of these are based off of the 40-page little book, The Meaning of FOI. I extracted 3 volumes based on what I was inspired by what the minister is talking on in The Meaning of FOI. And then I have the 10 Principles of War, which is the 9 classic principles plus 1, because I'm a military genius, I created one.
Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir.
What's applicable is the will to, the principle of the will to fight. I'm laughing because the brothers in the military know what I'm talking about. And then my 5th book is in the On Military Science series, Guerrilla Warfare, Principles, History, and the Hereafter. This is book 1. I'm working on a book 2, and I have 3 other books that's in the works as well when I get time off the road to deal with it. You can go to my website, www.Mikaeel, which is my first name, Mikaeel. I'm sorry, www.archangel, ARCHANGEL, then my name, archangelmikaeel.com. And they can order directly from the website, as well as the DVD of the lecture, the presentation on military science that I did in Fort Worth, Texas, a few years ago when the brothers the FOI and the captain there, Brother Shannon, had invited me down there for their military science conference. And so I got Brother Tawan Muhammad, brilliant brother, knows how to do that production, video production. Matter of fact, I think he does all the Minister Nuri's tapes and things. And brother put that thing together for me well. And I have that available as well. And so, you asked me something about Michael Jackson. It was a thing it just came to my mind what I was going to share. And I wish you'd get Brother Kim Muhammad out of Vegas on it. He could bear me witness.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So right after Brother's birthday, we used to have briefings on based on whether he was going to be moving that day, going around the city, this, that, the other, the mobile team would be going. So we had kind of determined that he wasn't going anywhere. I think it wasn't the grand, what's the music awards that was out of LA? It's the BMI, one of the Billboard chart awards. Anyway, they all thought he was going to be out there for that, but he didn't. He ain't going nowhere. And we thought he was in for the night. So half the mobile team, got cut loose. They went on, had leave and liberty. And about 4 hours later, by 8 o'clock that night, Michael Jackson decides he wants to go out, But we done sent the team and they all over the place. And someone probably cut their phones off. I don't know what, they went. So it's just me and Brother Kim. And then plus the brothers that's at the compound on duty. And so, Brother Kim gets the keys to the truck and MJ and the children jump in and I'm riding shotgun, but Kim driving. At first, we just looking like, this is going to be a disaster. We can't get in touch with nobody. Everybody's off. I think Brother Duran had his son at the time, so he had another obligation with his son. And I think another brother, his mother was like, it was just one of them situations where everybody's just tied up and cannot answer the call. So it's just me and Brother Kim. And we kind of like on edge because we thinking, how are we going to secure him and the children? Normally we got a team with the children and we got a team with him. It's just you and I. And I'm just like, bro, let's just go. So we rolling down to Las Vegas. He wants to go down to Las Vegas Boulevard, the strip as they call it. And this is nighttime, so all the lights and stuff out. And I remember there was a billboard with Tony not a billboard, but I think of Tony Braxton on the whole side of a hotel. I think it was the Flamingo. She was doing a residency there at the time. And he loved that picture of Tony Braxton on the side. He made him walk by. He loves some Tony Braxton, So he's just marveling in the background. And I hear him say, wow, it's just magical. So Brother Kim started chuckling. And he said, oh, I love Las Vegas. And Brother Kim said, Miss Jackie, you really like Las Vegas? He said, oh, I love this city. I love it. It's just so much energy. I wish I could just get out and just walk and absorb all of the energy. He said, but I can't get out there. They would mob me. And so me and Kim looking like, bro, he's serious. So then he wanted to go to the Sony store, which is inside of the Caesars Palace Mall. And so he's telling Brother Kim, let's take me to the Sony store, And me and Kim looking like, that can't happen. Because the way most of the stores are that we would take MJ to, there would always be some kind of service back door, So we didn't have to take him through the front. We always brought him through some service entry. Yeah, security go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So the Sony store doesn't have that. It's just the store front, and it's in the major part of the mall. And so Brother Kim and I are texting at the stoplights. He's texting me. I'm texting because we can't talk from the MJ. So he's texting me like, brother, we can't do that. I'm like, I agree. We can't do that. And Michael Jackson said, he says, well, Mr. Jackson, is there another store? He said, no, let's go to Sony. I own Sony. It's okay. And he says, but Mr. Jackson, we don't have all the security team. He said, no, don't worry about it. It's okay. We'll go on Sony. We'll be in and out. Nobody will notice. And I'm thinking like, you gonna tell where they gonna notice. And me and Kim are texting about like, this is a nightmare. And we go back and forth. So bro, Kim was like, bro, what should we do? I said, well, you go in and tell them we're going to do an advance, and you got to go in there and talk to, because it's getting late and you're going to talk to the managers, that the other, and then we just got to make up something as a reason why we can't go in there. So Brother Kim goes, we part, Brother Kim goes, and he comes back out, and he's like, Mr. Jackson, the manager says they're about to close, and this is that the other. He doesn't have any staff that can stay over to keep the store open, And so he's disappointed. He said, but we can call Fry's Electronics, and they stay open late. We'll find out how late they stay open and what schedule. So Kim called Fry's Electronics and said, well, they close at 10 o'clock, and most of their major crew leave by 10:20. They just have a skeleton crew, And so he agrees, Michael Jackson agrees, okay, that's good. But we had about 45 minutes to an hour of room playtime before that could happen. We had some time to keep, So there was a new mall that was built it was new at that time. It was on the south end of the Vegas, and it was an outdoor mall, and he wanted to go there. So we figured that might be a little better because it's outside and it's dark, it's not enclosed, So we're concerned about how are we going to do this, and then so Brother Kim especially said, Mr. Jackson, just got to be honest, we're just a little concerned that it's only, brother and I on the security. And MJ says, no, it's well, Kim, you'll walk with me, and Sensei will walk with the children, and they can walk ahead of us, and we can watch. We keep an eye on it. Nobody will recognize it. It'll be all right. We're okay. Don't worry, brother. So me and Kim looking like, okay. So we get to the mall. It's about 9 o'clock or so, and it's dark, and most of the stores are closed, which was a good thing. So it's not a lot of foot traffic around this mall. And we get there, and the children are walking with me, and I'm walking about 30, 40 yards ahead of them, And so we would get to a point where we would just stop and wait, so we could make sure we kept eye contact with one another. And I'll never forget this, brother. There was a mural on between two of the stores. There's this mural that someone had painted. And brother, MJ ran over to this mural. First time I seen him run, he ran over to this mural, and he just stopped dead in the center of it. And he just looked. And he was mesmerized. And then he just reached his hands out and started feeling all on the wall and stuff, like a 9, 8-year-old child would do, just fascinated by this mural. And I just stood back like, wow, And Brother Kim, we got him to Fry's Electronics. He bought up about 4 baskets full of DVDs and stuff, just bought the whole DVD section out. We left, all the children's movies that don't have cussing or bad imagery or whatever, he was adamant about that. Got back to the house, and so Brother Kim and I are talking, and Kim was like, man, Brother Mikaeel, did you see how MJ was acting? Like he was just totally mesmerized, like, he was really absorbed with what was going on around him. And, I said, yeah, bro, that's got to be rough, that you have an isolated lifestyle, that the artistry and things like that captivate him. I said, you heard what he said about, how he liked the stripping, the energy and stuff of Vegas, and Brother Kim said, brother, imagine what the minister goes through. As one of the biggest celebrities on the planet, that kind of isolation. I said, yeah, but Brother Kim, the difference is the minister got his family and he can see his children and grandchildren. MJ don't got nobody but his children that he's really good terms with. We didn't see the mom and dad come through. Janet Jackson came to town, did a show. I thought we was gonna see Janet. We was all talking about it. Man, Janet ain't show. I'm mad at Janet to this day. Janet Jackson ain't show like that. What kind of sister are you? You don't come see your brother? You come do a show and you roll out? That's how you do? Oh, you in control, huh? Okay. Okay. You all grown up now. Okay, I see you. Love goes, huh? Okay. But yeah, brother, it was just amazing to see, someone at that level just have a childlike spirit of just absorbing things and be fascinated with just the simplest of things. It's like, wow, man, got mega millions and, asset rich and stuff, shoot. He still just love art and life through the eyes of a child, hell of a thing.
Yes, sir. Excellent. And so many people are in the comments and showing you love. And the brother Kelvin said you mad at Janet and you had to feel crazy. Wow. Brother, I'm assuming this is Brother Diallo is laughing. And some people just showing you love in the comments. I can't wait to put this on YouTube.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. Well, speaking of the childlike spirit, when you, based off what you saw, do you think that he was lonely, that he was like sad? Did you pick up on that, or was he not sad?
One day, matter of fact, that day I told you that I was out with him by myself and just him and the children. He wanted to go down the strip and stuff, you know. When we were on our way back to the house, and he was just kind of talking to me, you know, and he was like, you know, Sensei, don't, you know, when the fans are around, don't mistreat them. You know, I know you all have to do your job, and you guys are doing good, but you know, I don't want you to put hands on them. Don't mistreat them. They don't mean harm. They don't mean ill. You know, they just want to express love, and you know, they have funny ways of doing it, but don't. I'm thinking, wow, he really loves his fans. You know, he really. But matter of fact, one day we were going to take them to the movies. You know, and there was this couple that had been standing outside in rotation, I guess, when the fans had showed up. There was a particular couple, I don't know where they were from, but they stood outside for a few days, and the one guy had albums, like the old school, off the wall, and he wanted MJ to sign them. You know, and he asked, would they give him to him? I think MJ signed some from it, and he knew, he was like, he's going to sell those. You know, he knew, but it's like they the fans, you know.
Yes, sir.
So I'm looking at that dude funny after MJ says that about him. But then, like the next day, we gonna take him to the movies, and I'm the trail vehicle behind Duran, you know. And as soon as we got out the compound, we hit out that compound. We don't stop. We moving, you know. And Duran stops. So I stop. I'm like, the hell. And the couple standing there. He rolls and went out. And they walk up to the window. I'm like, oh, he gonna talk to the fans again. Here we go. You know, I got my door cracked because I really want to crack this dude. I don't, you know. Can't do that because MJ said don't touch the fan. Okay, so I just got to sit here and take it, suck it up, and just make sure that, you know, nothing happens. Next thing I know, brother, the door opened and they jumped in the vehicle. So what the hell? And I want to radio to Ron, but I can't because he in the car with him, you know. And they sat for about 3 or 4 minutes to talk, and then they got out the vehicle. And then we got to the movie theater, and they're in the theater. So he told them where he was going. We sat, bought them popcorn, concessions and stuff, and they sat. We were in a time when the movie theater was empty, you know, and they sat at the movie theater with him and ate. You know, was he lonely? I can imagine. He probably got a whole bunch of periods of loneliness, but he knows that the fans worldwide, brother. Imagine if you got love from fans worldwide that will come sit outside your house in triple-digit dry Las Vegas heat, just to see you, brother Joshua, just roll your window down and wave your fingers. You got that kind of love that they run after your car like you the ice cream truck. Imagine that kind. Can you really feel lonely when the world loves you? When you know the world, the majority of the world loves you? Yeah, you probably got some bouts of, you know, isolation and stuff, but I don't know, brother. I didn't see that. I didn't get that feeling from him. I just know he had a fondness for the fans, brother. He really loved his fans. So when he passed, I said, man, shit, some of them probably gonna commit suicide, man. The way I done seen, that's gonna be a hard one. I really feel for the children like that, like they were each other's whole world. 98% of the time, just absorbing one another. That's gonna be, I don't care. That's gonna be a rough one. They turn out pretty good from what I see, you know. So I'm, you know, happy to know that. But yeah, he probably did experience those things like any man would, brother. I know one thing. I hear them jokes about, you know, he didn't like women. Now that brother loved women. He was mesmerized by that Tony Braxton thing when he used to be on the side of Flamingo, brother. His brothers can bear me witness. They bet, you know, shoot.
Okay, yes, sir. Okay, now my next question for you is, will you ever write a book on your personal life?
You know, my wife said I should do that. My wife and I are gonna buy a sailboat because I intend to sail away. I love sailing, and I got my wife interested in it now. And I want to be able to take time off and probably reflect on things like that, you know, because there are a lot of things, man, I didn't even get, you know, I had another book too, brother. I have a fictional novel that I wrote. It's called Archangels Inc. I was sharing it with you before, but I didn't get to the premise of how it came. It basically came about from a story, not a story, but an actual incident that happened to my father.
Yes, sir.
My father has struggled with heroin addiction, you know, and when I was 10 years old, he had an overdose. It took him out. He was gone. Pronounced clinically dead, and they had to resuscitate him. And when they resuscitated him, as he told me, it happened in DC. When he was on the streets of DC, it fell over to the Northwest, over there somewhere near North Capitol Street, where he told me it was. And this good, so-called Good Samaritan gentleman had witnessed him fall and collapse out in the street, you know, and stood by his side, got a neighbor to call the ambulance. The ambulance came. This guy stayed with him all the way to the, you know, back during that time, you could ride with someone in an ambulance. You can't do that stuff now. You know, protocols are different. Went to the hospital with him. I think he was a DC general. Went to the hospital with him and had his wallet and his information in it. You know, my dad said when he got resuscitated and came to, he had amnesia. He forgot who he was. He forgot he had a family. And the guy had his information in his wallet, and it had a picture of me and my mother. And I think my sister was just born. I'm 10 years older than my sister, so I think she was just born at that time. So there was a photo of us in his wallet. And this guy stayed with him like 3 or 4 days that he's recuperating in the hospital until he gets his memory. And the guy would ask him every day, you know, hey, show him the picture. Like, do you know who these people are? This is your family. You know, I assume that's your wife, your children, Till he finally came to remember who he was. And once he checked out of the hospital, they checked him over, he left. And he said he never saw that guy again. I said, well, do you remember his name? He said, no, I don't remember his name. He said, but if I ever saw him, I know his face, you know. And he said, you know, your mother real deep into that Christianity thing. I ain't with all that. He said, but I do believe it's God. I believe in angels. And I know that man was an angel. He said, because he could have robbed me. He could have left. I was dead on the street. He could have taken my wallet. I had a little change in my pocket too, you know. My dad used to hustle, you know. So he was a business entrepreneur, but he came up as a hustler, you know. And everybody in DC know what I'm talking about. Well, you've been there, brother. Your dad tell you about that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But he said, yeah, he could have robbed me, you know, but he didn't. And he stayed with me for 3 or 4 days till I got my memory back. And I said, wow, Dad, what if there was like an organization, you know, that instead of like the CIA type stuff, it was like an Angels Incorporated, you know, because we hear these things all the time, these Good Samaritan stuff, and nobody ever knows. But what if there was actually an organization of people in the ranks and amongst the populace doing that? And I wrote a whole novel based on my dad and my uncle, I told you was a Vietnam veterans, where characters that are amalgamated in combinations, them fictional, but based off of that as well. So yeah, I probably would write something about my life, if not just to record, or even this interview that you blessed me to be able to sit and talk with you and your listening audience, brother, you know, just to share these things. So this is a part of a book. It's recorded right now.
Crazy. So yes, sir. Okay, great. Well, Brother Mikaeel, first of all, thank everybody in the comments. Continue to like, share, subscribe to the People's Podcast. Brother Mikaeel, what would you like your legacy to be?
Oh, brother, my legacy. My children and my bonus children and grandchildren, you know, that's my legacy. And whatever they do in this life, you know, I always told my children 2 things. I never gave them a long list of do's and don'ts. I just gave them 2 things. I figured they can remember 2 things. Number 1 was, don't embarrass me. Number 2 was, make me proud. You know, and I've repeated that in their ears so often, they know, you know, don't do something that's going to embarrass dad, but make them proud, you know, and they do that, you know. So whatever they do, that's going to be my legacy. And amongst the nation, I just want believers to know, man, I didn't make these sacrifices for myself. I could have went a whole nother direction, man, and been blessed on that way too, without the headache and the heartache and the having been lied on, those types of things. And, maligned and all that, and got nothing in return from that other than just the love of the believers and, the blessings from Allah, I could have went another way. But I just want my legacy to be that y'all remember that I just wanted to see us do better. And, that was part of what was in my thesis, that when the minister said in that phone conversation, when he said, brother, I just finished reading your thesis and I was inspired by what I read and it uplifted my spirit. I wanted to ask him, Brother Josh, why was your spirit down? Why did your spirit need to be uplifted? I'm thinking that you already, man, you got the connection to the God. You the man that's sitting next to the man. I'm thinking like, man, what got the minister's spirit that back? I can't ask them questions them, but I wanted to, and I think over that often. Man, why did the minister say it uplifted his spirit? It's a heavy thing, And he recounted the story at the end I shared, and I'll share this in closing. And I was in Las Vegas this time. I'm listening to a radio program, and it was during I think it was during Veterans Day. And they were talking to one of the surviving Tuskegee Airmen at that time. His name is Alexander Jefferson. And he had written a book called Red Tail Captured, Red Tail Free. You seen the movie Red Tails?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He was one of those pilots of Tuskegee Airmen that flew the Red Tails. And his plane had got shot down by the Germans. The plane went down. He became a prisoner of war. And he was recounting on the program that basically they rolled up on him, and he said the one German officer put out this manifesto. And in the manifesto, they kept flipping the pages until he said, oh, and said something in German. Basically, that's him. They had a picture of him, and they had pictures of his graduating class in this manifesto. And then he went on to say, they started running his history. They said, oh, yeah, you went to, in the interrogators, oh, you went to such and such elementary, and you went to such and such, middle school and such as high school, and your parents do this, that, the other, and they earn X amount of that. He said they knew more about me than I knew about myself. But he got the respect and treatment by the officers as an officer. He didn't get segregated. He didn't get that segregated treatment. But then he said when he came back to the US, he got off the plank of the ship and he saw a sign that said whites this way, colors that way. And then he went through the civil rights movement, and then he went through all this stuff. And so the interviewer asked him, he talked about the suffering and stuff that he got here and how his enemy treated him better. And I could relate what he was talking about when I was listening. But the interviewer asked him at the end of the thing, she said, Mr. Jefferson, you went through all these things. You saw the civil rights movement and you got better treatment, by the Germans than you did of your own. How is it that you are still so patriotic towards the US after all that was denied you and all that you had been, put through? And he said, America is the best nation on the earth. It has its problems. Let's make it better. And they closed the thing like that. And brother, I thought on that, I got a tear on them. I was like, wow. And I put that in my thesis. And so now the minister is recounting that story back to me that he read it. And he said, brother, you all right? Because I said, that's the way I feel about the nation. It's the best thing on the planet. It's got its problems. Let's make it better. That's what I want my legacy. I try to help make it better.
Praise be to Allah. Beautiful. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Excellent story. Excellent. And what an excellent legacy to have. Once again, I want to thank you, Brother Mikaeel, on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience for your sacrifice and the sacrifices of your family. Yes, sir. The part 1 and part 2 are both on. Will be on YouTube, and may Allah continue to bless you. And let's stay connected, Brother Mikaeel.
Yes, sir. By all means, I'm in Facebook jail right now again. I tried to friend you on that, so I'm still in. They got me in Facebook jail for the 4th time this year, bro. 30 days. I'm about to get off Facebook anyway. Especially when Zuckerberg do that mega thing he about to do. I'm not trying to get out that matrix.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, thank you. And thank everybody who's watching. May Allah continue to bless you and your family, sir. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off for the People's Podcast. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you.